Talk to 'em there, Bob. Tell 'em how to play that old Texas swing music. My goodness, that is made in Texas by a Texan. I love that old music. I sure do. Okay, folks, we are back on the Common Sense with Conn show for the second hour. I think that first hour only lasted 5 minutes, so I don't know why the time flies so fast up here, but it really does. Uh, but when you're having good common sense conversations with folks, time gets away from me. And I'd like to thank Lou Ann for being here today. We've enjoyed it. And
And as always, enjoy being here.
and don't forget to tune in to the Logic Nation. It's on every morning on KTM, this same radio station, AM 1400 on your dial. And you can listen to Miss Lou Ann and David Hodges and CJ Grissom and
Robert Young.
Robert Young.
Yes. And I really encourage everybody to tune in this coming Monday because we're going to have an announcement to make about an upcoming event, something that Conn and his audience certainly are going to be invited to participate in as well. And so the details are going to start rolling out Monday morning. So we hope you'll give us a listen.
Okay, y'all can spend all weekend just wondering what that announcement's going to
the
be,
suspense.
but just tune in to the Logic Nation Monday morning and you can find out. And if you missed that, well, I'll be talking about it next Saturday.
Absolutely.
But it's an event that guarantee you'll enjoy. Uh, and that's enough said about that, I guess. At any rate, we were talking earlier about, well, all kind of things, but I brought up an example a while ago. Look at the people on the border that's trying to break into the United States. And all you can see on the news is women and children, women and children. Oh, women and children have been tear gassed, and oh, how horrible this is, and how awful Donald Trump is, and our border patrolmen, etc. My question is, why are the women and children up front? Where's all the 25-year-old healthy young men? Where are they at? Oh, they're back behind the women and children. I have brought this up before, and I'll remind you again. You know where they did that the first time, or at least not the first time, but a glaring example of that same situation was in the Philippine Islands in World War II, when the Japanese would take the women and children and old folks out of the village, put a bayonet on the end of their rifle, and put that bunch of people, women and kids and old folks, in front of them, and march them up to the lines where the U.S. Army boys were sitting there with a machine gun or whatever, and it was a kill or be killed situation. Now, my good friend that helped raise me when I was a kid, his name was Fred Wilson in Lilac, Texas. He told that story to me years and years ago, and he was one of the men there, and he was forced to either kill or be killed. So, was that tactic learned from that experience? Is that what we now see on the border with Mexico? Are we seeing the same thing? Now, and I hate to bring that up because it's brutal and it's crude and all that kind of stuff, but it's a fact. It happened. It's reality. And now are they practicing the same thing? And what if they expand on that? What if instead of being 2 or 3,000, what if it is 20,000?
And that's where it sounds as though we're headed.
That's
because
where it's headed.
Other caravans are being tracked as they're making their way up through Mexico. And certainly it's not difficult to know where these groups of people are because everywhere they go, they're having an impact on any of the communities they come through with the traffic, the trash, just the large numbers of people coming in, and it's taxing the infrastructures of these communities through which they're coming.
And what do you have to do to stop it? But you only have two choices, like we were saying a while ago. You can either stop it or you can let it happen. Now, if you let it happen, what's going to happen to the United States of America? It's going to go away, folks. if you are invaded by hundreds of thousands or millions of people from South Central America, Iraq, Iran, wherever, what's going to happen to America? And what if it's 500 people today, 5,000 tomorrow, 50,000 next month? Then what happens when tear gas don't stop them?
And
That's the question.
and the violence is certainly an issue. The health ramifications are an issue. The Tijuana Health Department just made an announcement a couple of days ago. They have treated 2,267 of these people, which of about 5,000, I'm sorry, so 40% or so. Over 60% have respiratory infections, 3 cases of tuberculosis, 4 cases of AIDS, 101 cases of lice, 4 cases of chickenpox. And so these are all diseases that if these people start utilizing any public facilities, residents, taxpayers in the city of Tijuana.
When are we going to stop thinking emotionally and start thinking logically? When are we going to ask the question, what happens when they overwhelm us? What happens when we bring all of these diseases in the United States? Now, we've already beat polio in this country. Are we going to try to defeat it again? Do we want to bring it back into this country? What are we thinking about?
And this has been on the horizon for so long. There was a lady that I used to would talk to and book on air named Dr. Madeline Cosman. She was out of California. She was a PhD out there, but she was very involved with the illegal immigration, studying that issue. And she was talking back in 2005 about the resurgence of tuberculosis, of dengue fever, of Chagas, all of these diseases which you do hear about, and that they were coming in from across the border with these people coming across the border unchecked. Now, it's not even that they're unchecked. They're being well documented.
Well, and people cannot put themselves, don't get me started here, but you don't understand how dangerous this is until you see your teenage son laying on the bed with polio that he got down at the junior high school because these people came in and gave it to him. Is that what you want to see in this country?
And that same child is at risk when we have people from MS-13 coming in with them also, and their operandi down in their home countries are what you were saying. You either join the gang or the gang's going to do you in.
Yeah.
And do we want our teenagers again to be confronted with those types of options? And so this is something that can have just horrible, horrible implications for all ages in our society.
They have Raldo Rivera on, and he's, oh, these are desperate people. We have to help them. Okay. Is it a help or be helped situation? Is it help the desperate people or destroy your own country, your own? Here's John. He's going to help us with this situation. John, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Hey, Mr. Tatum, hey, Soros is funding this border invasion with various organizations that he funds and backs. And the Dems, are including Beto, are backing and funded by the same guy. And he also backed the Ferguson stuff, right?
Yeah.
How in the heck is that guy able to get away with that stuff? And nobody says a word in this big old country of ours, except for maybe the president. How in the heck does that guy get away with that stuff?
Well, now watch out, John. You got to be careful here. You're applying to some common sense to the issue here. That's something that the left does not want us to do. I'm like you. How does George Soros? Oh, I better shut up.
Well, and it's happening in plain sight. That's the thing. Daily Signal had a reporter down there, and who he was talking to, he said that the caravans, one Mexican official who he talked to who asked not to be named, the caravans are very well orchestrated. We've seen signals that there is money. The signals are different from the typical flow of migrants. They say that there is an unprecedented degree of logistical organization and funding. And so it's happening in plain sight. And
the point is like they're just saying, hey, we're all just dumb hicks and we don't know nothing about nothing, and they're sitting there telling us who's doing it on the regular news. I mean, everything I know, I pick up from regular news.
Well, Chris Farrell, who's with Judicial Watch, he was kicked off of Fox Business, which I was very disappointed to hear because he made some comment about Soros funding. I don't know who else at Fox Business has been down there on that border, but when he did that, he had just been down there for a number of days when he came back and made that comment. When somebody's been down there on the ground seeing that stuff, I think you have to think that perhaps maybe they have a bit of credibility with what they're saying.
Well, you know, a lot of other conservative talk show hosts, radio, are being kicked off the air and having to go to podcasts. Riley, Savage, Ingram's going that way. You know, the money strings are there, right?
Well,
you know, that picture on the Godfather movie, you know, where the puppeteer, right? The strings are there, and so what's going on? This is just a slow rolled, soft coup revolution going on, and
John,
nobody's doing nothing about it except for watching here. You know, like we're watching, going, "Dang, look at this! Dang, look at that!" But nobody's saying a dadgum word about it. Right?
Well, and that's our fault, John. Why aren't we, the people, rising up and saying enough is enough? And I don't want to start any kind of movement of any kind, but look at how effective and unquestioned the Black Lives Matter was when they burned up part of Ferguson, Missouri. Nobody questioned them. Nobody went to jail. Nobody was shot. Nobody interfered with them. So what are we learning from this? I keep saying, when you reward bad behavior, what the cat hair do you expect to get more of? If the Black Lives Matter can burn up Ferguson, Missouri, then they can burn up Houston, Texas.
Sure.
If you don't stop bad behavior, if not now, when? If not me, who?
Well, I mean, I guess we're gonna, you know, or what are we gonna do? Just turn it over?
Yeah.
And just kiss it all goodbye, because we're just too timid to say, hey, that's enough.
Well, John, how many people in the state of Texas voted for Beto O'Rourke? And it was obvious what he was. He wanted open borders. He wanted gun control. He wanted to, you know, he was funded by George. I don't know who he was funded by. I don't know. I can't document that. But apparently he was.
I mean, he made more money than anybody else in history, probably, right?
Yeah, where did it come from?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
he's a nobody nothing, right?
Well, and I don't believe he got $38 million by, you know, delivering newspapers on horseback.
He was chosen.
Yeah.
He was chosen just like Obama was chosen.
So, but my question is, the only way for John and Conn and Luann to combat this is don't vote for the sorry son of a gun, and influence your neighbors and kinfolks and friends to not vote for him either. We have got to fight this in some way, and the only way that I can fight it is how I'm fighting it right now, and it's how you're fighting it right now, John, and that is bringing it to the attention of the masses.
And it's important also, as so many of our eyes and our focus is on Tijuana, it's important to remember that that's where a lot of the media activity is. But don't at all think that there still aren't plenty of border crossings and plenty of activity going on throughout Arizona, throughout Texas, even though Tijuana's the one that's getting the attention. So in a way, Tijuana is just almost serving as a distraction, but it's business as usual in other parts of the border.
Well, and
I know it's well orchestrated, like you said. I mean, it's not happening by accident. I mean, it's like it's unbelievable
for
the amount of
for
planning.
multiple motives in doing it. It's the drug trafficking. It's the getting people across the border for repopulating the United States. It's for economic activity to get cheap workers in here. There are a number of motivations that can be ascribed. And sadly, there are some of these people that are coming from these horrible situations down in Central America, and they're being taken advantage of in ways too.
Well, and let's not ignore the monetary thing here. I was just talking to Tina earlier, and she was saying all this opioid invasion, if you will, of opioid and all that is doing to us. It's not being manufactured in Mexico. It's brought here through Mexico, but it's being made in Red China. So,
I'm not surprised.
you know, how many millions or billions of dollars does that bring to the drug lords and wherever?
And Tammy Bruce made a point the other night that, and there are many politicians who do not care about the opioid epidemic. They do not care about the deaths and the suicides that are occurring as a result of the opioid epidemic, because so much of it is happening in flyover country, in red states, and that if anything, there are some people who might believe that this is just a way to hasten the demise of the right side of the country, and therefore give more legitimacy to the need to bring in replacement voters, which I know that's getting into some pretty out there type thinking, but there is a strain of logic that goes through that as well, frightening as it is.
And it is frightening. If I'll tell you what, if that don't scare you, well, you're hard to scare. If you don't think about the end result of this that we're talking about, what's the destination of this road we're traveling? Where does it take us?
There
Well,
are
I don't know. You know, I hear people who are pretty dadgum smart talk about things like gun control and such and all. And I heard some guy on the radio about 2 days ago talking about, hey, well, you know, the Second Amendment was just about the militia. And this guy's kind of like a right-winger type, you know, and I was like, oh, yeah, you think so? What about all the folks heading west, right? You think that they were carrying their six gun for because they were in a militia? You know, you think they had that Winchester next to them in that wagon because they were part of a militia? It's about keeping yourself safe, being able to protect yourself. That's what it's about. And then they put it in the Constitution so that when you had an oppressive government, you could bear arms against them if you needed to. That's why they made the dadgum amendment. And anybody that can't figure that out is just got their head stuck in the sand.
Well, is it ignorance, John? Is it a mental illness? Why is it people can't figure that out? I was in a discussion several years ago with somebody talking about how anti-gun, you know, destroy the Second Amendment and guns are horrible, guns cause violence, all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, you can cuss guns all you want to, but I might remind you that if it had not been for the guns in 1776, you'd be paying taxes to the King of England today. If it hadn't been for guns in 1836, you'd be talking Spanish today, and you'd be part of Mexico. So you can cuss guns all you want to, but the freedom that you enjoy today, you enjoy because of the gun.
That's right. I'll up that ante a little bit. When's the last time you seen an NRA member doing some kind of crazy violence with a gun?
No, but who are they trying to destroy right now? The NRA.
The NRA, yeah.
Since you brought this up, John, I'm gonna blame it on you. I think everybody out there that owns a gun, if you don't belong to the NRA, shame on you. Because that's the reason we still own a gun today. So if you don't belong to the NRA and help them, help us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that you got to go that way with it, because I know, you know, the people of this country should understand the reason why that is there is so that you can protect yourself from the bad guys,
you know,
whoever they may be.
John, briefly, I'm reminded of the case in Oklahoma. Now, you know about the case in Florida where the 19-year-old kid used AR-15 and killed a bunch of students. You never ever hear about a 19-year-old in Oklahoma a month or two before that. 3 boys kicked in the front door. All they had was brass knuckles and butcher knives. They were going to kill his mother and father. That 19-year-old had an AR-15 too, and he killed them 3, and his parents survived. You never hear about that. That is never talked about on the news, but that happened in Oklahoma, right up here north of the Red River.
Well, who's controlling the media?
Yeah, but see, one reason I'll bring it up because we need to be reminded of the good use of that. Mr. Williston down in Sutherland Springs, Texas, down here, that bad guy was killing folks at the Baptist church until a barefooted fella, older fella, he had AR-15 too.
Mm-hmm.
He ran out there in that gravel road barefooted, but he stopped the killing. You know, so you never hear that talked about. The news media never brings up Mr. Williston in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Why? Why, when you're talking about all these gun issues, why don't you bring that up? They don't.
Because it's pro-gun.
John, I appreciate your call. Bless your heart. Don't lose the phone number. We'll be here next Saturday again. So.
All right, y'all have a great weekend.
You
too, John. Okay, folks. I think we got to go to break again. Talk to him, Bob. Tell him about it, Bob. Okay, folks, here we are back on the Common Sense with Conn call-in radio talk show. We're going to excuse Lou Ann and let her go get with John, and I think John wants her to mow the yard or something. I don't know. He got some kind of work laid out for her, so I guess he's got some gloves there to loan her, and going to put her to work. But anyway, we're going to excuse Lou Ann for right now, and we're going to go back to the Common Sense with Conn call-in talk show. And in the meantime, we got Rick from Salado. I think I know Rick. I think we've heard of him before. Rick, are you still out there?
Yep.
Go ahead.
In the past, former Nazis have been found and arrested for crimes they committed back in World War II. I wonder why George Soros isn't on the radar, because he was known as the Bloodhound. He was used by the Nazis to find hiding Jews, and that's especially it's especially awful because he himself is Jewish, although he's renounced Judaism and he's an atheist. So when you talk, but if you say anything bad about George Soros, you're automatically branded a anti-Semite.
Yeah. Rick, whatever happened to truth? What brand was Lenin? Who was Karl Marx?
Yep.
Now, whatever happened to truth? I mean, I don't care if you're Jewish, Israeli, Arab. I don't care what you are. Wrong is wrong and right is right. But
that's right.
I'd like to remind people that Karl Marx was not an Oklahoma Indian. What was he?
Yep. And as for those that caravan, if you throw rocks at border security people and bottles and stuff, the immigration judge is not going to look kindly upon that when you ask for asylum. In fact, I have a good idea that they would not grant you asylum simply because you lobbed rocks and bottles at border security guards. So they're disqualified, those guys that threw the rocks and stuff. So they might as well turn around and go back to wherever they came from.
Well, I guarantee you, Rick, in my mind, hitting somebody with a rock is assault with a deadly weapon.
That's right.
Why can't a border patrolman or a citizen, or Rick in Salado or Conn in Temple, why can't someone defend himself against assault with a deadly weapon?
Yeah, I know that it seems illogical that our border patrol people their hands are tied. They can't use deadly force against these people. It's probably mostly because it would look bad. But I don't know about you, but you can get killed with a rock, in a bottle.
Yeah.
And that,
I keep bringing up, Rick, that old David and Goliath story. David didn't shoot Goliath with 30-06. He hit him with a rock. When Cain killed Abel, he didn't use a butcher knife or a 38 special. He used a rock. So, a rock can be a deadly weapon. And I think when somebody is trying to kill you with a deadly weapon, a border patrolman, a citizen, a whoever, ought to have the right to defend themselves. And I know the liberal left don't like that idea. They criticize all that kind of stuff. Geraldo Rivera has a fit, but I'd like to see what Geraldo Rivera would do if somebody was trying to hit him in the head with a brick or a broken bottle or a rock.
Well, in fact, you mentioned a story earlier where this guy beat a man to death, who tried to rape his little girl. And so, a fist can be a deadly weapon. And I remember that story. That guy, when he called 911, he was very upset. And he told them, please get here quick. He's going to die. And you could tell that he was upset that he beat the guy to death. But you can't blame the guy because he caught this guy trying to rape his 2-year-old daughter.
Well, Rick,
And
every time I talk about that, I'm reminded of the sheriff of Calhoun County. He was on TV and he made the statement, he will never be prosecuted in Calhoun County.
yep, and
That's the way it
you
should
know,
be.
there was this police chief in Austin, Texas, named Art Acevedo, and he was very, very liberal. And he often spoke about illegal immigrants in about not profiling, things like that. And he said, and he once said something like, for instance, if I were to tell you that the profile of a child molester is a middle-aged white man, blah blah blah, and that really offended me, because every time I hear the news about an assault on a woman or an assault on a child, 9 times out of 10 it turns out to be an illegal alien.
Yeah,
And
that or a minority of some kind, and they don't mention it because he's not a white man. The only time they stress that is if he is white. That police chief would like to condemn all white people. Okay, let's tell the truth. I would encourage all of us to sometime look at the FBI Uniform Crime Report statistics. I haven't seen it in several years, but the last time I saw it, it listed how many crimes were committed by what demographics in this country. It was a real eye-opener, and I'm not going to repeat it. I'll let you find it for yourself. But
I guess that I'm pretty sure that guy that tried to rape that 2-year-old girl was also a migrant worker. That guy had hired to work on his ranch or something like that. And so it's not, crime has no race. Different people of all shapes, sizes, colors commit heinous crimes. But it does seem like a whole lot of them lately are from Mexico and places like that are repeat offenders. They come here, they get deported, they come here again, they get deported again, they get convicted of drunk driving a lot and end up killing somebody on the road. And it's just a tragedy. And I don't want to sound racist, because there's a lot of white people who get drunk behind the wheel and kill people. But like that guy that killed all them poor people in that church bus.
Yeah, but Rick, see, I'd like to not bring racism into it. Dead is dead. Crime is crime. Truth is truth. And when you start injecting racism into talking about a truthful situation, Joe Smuckbinder killed 4 people. Okay, it doesn't matter if he's black, green, white, or purple. He's the killer, and they're the victims. So,
yep.
But in today, all you can hear about is the racial issue. Well, that doesn't make any difference. A criminal is a criminal no matter what color he is. And a victim is a victim no matter what color he is.
I'm going to let you go because I can hardly talk. Anyway, I enjoy the show, and see you next time.
Well, we'll talk to you next Saturday, Rick. You be careful out there. Okay, we're back on the show with the Common Sense with Conn call-in talk show, folks. I might remind you one more time that if you know of anybody that would like to sponsor this show to keep it on the air, the phone number to call is 300-1885. That will get you hooked up to my wife, and she'll tell you how to sponsor this show. And I might add that if we don't get some sponsors, this show is going to go quietly into the night, and it won't be around anymore. And that'll be okay if that's what everybody wants. I don't do this to profit myself. I don't make one crying quarter out of this show. I don't make a dime out of it. Every dollar that I get goes to pay KTM for this airtime. But if people like to hear it and you want it to keep going, well, you better go find me a sponsor or two. So, but at any rate, I don't like begging for money. I don't like trying to get money to keep this show going. But money is what it takes because KTM has to pay their bills too, so. But one note that my wife gave me here, there was a feller on Life, Liberty, and Levin the other day. His name was George Gilder, and he made a profound statement. He said, capitalism versus socialism equals liberty versus tyranny. And that is so, so true. Now you're seeing a lot of criticism of capitalism. Capitalism is what made America the greatest nation in the history of the world. So you can cuss capitalism all you want to, but when you're cussing capitalism, you're cussing America. When you're criticizing capitalism, you're criticizing America. And I might remind you that America is where you live. If you're a citizen of this country, I would say you ought to be kind of careful criticizing the country you live in, because this is where your freedom comes from. Don't forget where you live and how you live. But Kevin is here in Temple, and he's going to tell me how the cow eats cabbage. Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
Well, thank you. I was just wondering several things about the migrant, well, I don't want to really call them migrants, but the problems with the border. These people come from supposed countries, and it's as though these countries have no responsibility to improve the lives of their own citizens.
Exactly.
They can be corrupt, they can be violent, they can just be run by gangs, and nobody complains about these countries and how irresponsible they are. I understand that there really were no countries until the Europeans went around the world and established countries, and these were basically tribal areas where apparently for a long time, thousands of years, things had gone okay. But there are countries now, and if they want to maintain the status of being countries...
Kevin, let me inject something real quick right here. You're right. It was different tribes, but I might remind everybody that for centuries, tribes have killed other tribes. You're still seeing it today in the Middle Eastern countries, where you've got the Shiites killing the Sunnis. They'll set off a bomb and kill 100 Sunnis because they're Sunnis, not Shiites. So if we want to go back to tribal warfare, then let's revert back several hundred years, and we'll go back to that.
Well, my problem is, I don't know what the solution is, but the solution is certainly not to overburden all the Western countries with these people from other places. Obviously, that is not the solution, because there are tens of millions of people in Central and South America who would have to come to the United States because a lot of their countries are collapsing. There are tens, hundreds of millions of people in the Middle East, Africa, and parts of Asia that would want to go to Europe because their countries are collapsing. So obviously that is not the solution, to just let these people into the Western countries helter-skelter, because all you're going to do is collapse the Western countries, all of them. And then the world itself is going to be in it's going to be like it was a long time. It's just going to be a few people at the top, which is maybe what they want, and then everybody else is just fighting for survival.
Is that their goal, Kevin? That's my question.
It has to be, because I don't see that this is a solution of letting these people into Europe, into the United States, just helter-skelter. How many are we supposed to let in? 100 million? 200 million? We can't possibly do that and maintain the country that we have.
Well, and Kevin, let me ask the question: What weapon has the left figured out how to use against Western countries? What is the greatest weapon they can use against us? You know what it is?
Populations.
No, Christianity. We Christians believe that we should feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, house the homeless. That's good Christian principles. If you apply those Christian principles to all of the nations in the world, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, uh, Honduras, Guatemala, Somalia, all those places, apply that same Christian principles and you will destroy Western civilization.
Well, I think Christianity has been perverted by people who aren't Christians, because yes, we are for helping people who need help, but you know, Christianity could not have survived for hundreds of years if we weren't very stout and willing to defend ourselves. And we didn't let people 150 years ago just sashay into the country and say, "Look, you got to do this, you got to do that." We didn't allow that. But because Christians have been so propagandized that all Christianity is about is being kind and being good and being, you know, we don't want to defend ourselves. We think not defending ourselves anymore is part of Christianity, and it's absolutely not. Read the Bible. It is not.
Well, you're exactly right, Kevin, and that's my point too, is that we are allowing Christian principle of nice, sweet, gentle, etc., to destroy us.
Exactly. Somebody
has to stand up and be counted.
Exactly. And you know, the problem is our leaders have been so propagandized that's what they think being a good Christian is. And so we basically, except President Trump, we basically have nobody who wants, and I'm talking about all these Republican leaders too, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, they won't stand up either. They won't stand up for, you know, enforcing the law. They won't stand up for the borders. They won't stand up for the schools being taken over by just liberal craziness and hate. You know, hate. How can you get out and preach that all white people need to be killed? I just don't understand. If you did that with all black people, you would be in jail.
Exactly, but it's acceptable for a college professor to say that at the University of George Washington University or Harvard or wherever it's at. It's okay to say we need white genocide, but if you ever uttered the word black genocide, boy, they would put you in the penitentiary for the rest of your life and throw the key away. So, but Kevin, doggone it, I sure enjoyed your conversation now that you got me all stirred up. We're going to have to go to a break here pretty quick. Kevin, don't lose the phone number. You can call back in next Saturday and get me madder than I already am. Anyway, thank you for the call, Kevin. I enjoyed that. I guess we're going to go to break here. We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks. Hang in there. Okay, folks, here we are. Going to interrupt that old good music. Back on the air with the Common Sense with Conn show. The call-in number here is 254-773-1400. Let me quickly mention, if you have anything that you want to sell at auction, like farm equipment, industrial equipment, your house, your farm, your whatever. Now, you cannot list your wife and kids, but if you got anything that you want to sell at an auction sale, Central Texas Auction Service down in Belton is a really good place to find a way to sell stuff. Trey's phone number down there is 512-463-6599 or 800-803-9202. I'm getting where I can't read nothing, Dad, blame. Anyway, Trey's Central Texas Auction Service, they're just good people. They got an auction yard there on Loop 121, just east of Interstate 35. They just had an auction sale there, but they're going to have another one. They'll have a spring auction sale. They do all kind of stuff. But give old Trey a holler out there if you got something you want to put in the auction sale, because he'll sure take care of it for you. Right now, I think we got a caller. I think it's Miss Vicky up there in Youngsport. Miss Vicky, are you still there?
I are.
Go ahead on. What are you going to talk about today?
I know that you're limited on time, but these people that keep spouting the Bible, first of all, they have not read the Bible start to finish, because God also says he will help those who help themselves, that an eye for an eye, and he will smite those who speak against him. Now, smite means kill. So these people that say, well, we have to be Christian, well, we can be Christian on both sides of that issue. If you want to mess around with us, you've got a consequence to pay, and that payment is going to be severe. And these folks that tend to spout all this stuff and use it against us, we true Christians need to stand up and say, okay, I know I'm supposed to turn the other cheek, but when I turn it, it's going to be followed by a roundhouse.
Well, true, Vicki, and we need to keep things in perspective. You don't want to kill anybody. You don't want to hurt anybody. We're all good Christian people. We don't want to hurt somebody, and we want to help those in need. But I keep talking, or I talked earlier about the situation that Fred Wilson was in the Philippine Islands in World War II. He was in a kill or be killed situation. It was not of his making, but that is the situation he was in. Now, I do not advocate killing the poor people trying to come here from Honduras or wherever they're from. But on the other hand, you have got to control our borders, and you have got to control an invasion by whoever it may be and for whatever reason. If they're trying to invade our country because they're in desperate circumstances down there, I feel sorry for them, and, I would like to help them. But I would like to help them in Honduras or Guatemala or wherever they are.
What happened to all the aid that we gave them? And if these people are in such need and they're so hungry, and I don't mean to sound unchristian, but I'm going to, they had an opportunity in Mexico for a visa, for a job, for housing. They turned it down because they want to come here. Tom, there's a difference between need and want.
Well, and what happened, Vicki, is that we send $650 million a year to Mexico in foreign aid, but you know where the money goes? It goes to the politicians in the hierarchy and the drug cartel. It does not go to the peons on the street.
Oh, and it never has. I mean, Mexico has been corrupt since the conquistadors came over in 1600.
Yes, for a long, long time. Do you know how a policeman gets his job in Mexico, Vicki?
He's either got a brother or a sister. Exactly.
Well, he buys his job. He pays for it.
Well, I know one way we can pay for the wall. How about for one solid year? Nobody gets any kind of benefit from the United States in foreign aid for a solid year.
Well, I'm just saying, they've got those poor people, they have a problem in Guatemala or Honduras.
Then they can they can fix their own country.
Exactly. They need to fix their country like we fixed ours.
Exactly.
See,
we gave them a blueprint.
When we were here in 1776, we did not invade Honduras because of our circumstances here. We fixed our circumstances.
And one more thing I wanted to bring up. When we went to Panama, because my father was stationed at the Panama Canal Zone, we were going to an American territory. You should have seen what my mom and my brother and I had to go through to go to Panama, the inoculations, actually had to have a health assessment and a psychological assessment to get into an American territory. But now you're telling me that all of these people coming up from God knows where, we don't even need to make sure they have an immunization record?
But Vicki, you've got people here in America that want to open the door and let them in. You got one man named Beta O'Rourke that ran for senator, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to welcome them in with open arms. You know,
he is the biggest faker on the planet.
Well,
he's being groomed just like that previous caller said, just like Obama. He is so Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy wouldn't spit on the best part of him.
Well, their goal is to destroy Western civilization. Kevin, I really enjoyed Kevin's call a while ago.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He nailed it, you know, and he's 100% right. But my question is, when you destroy Western civilization, what replaces it?
Putin and Karl Marx and all of them will have their lifelong dream.
Yeah, that's what. But why is it that some who voted for Beta O'Rourke in Texas? You know,
I wonder how many of them actually had a driver's license.
You know, I mean, somebody voted for that guy. You know, and
that goes back to everybody from California, leaving California, coming to Austin, San Antonio, Houston, the liberal, you know, blueberries in a red state. They've screwed up California so bad they can't stand it, and now they're going to attempt to do the same thing to Texas.
Yeah, they're setting their sights on Texas.
Uh-oh, we're done. See ya.
Thank you, Vicki.